All right, well, welcome everyone to how to choose which LIHTC, otherwise known as Low Income Housing Tax Credit Green Program. In this session, we are going to go over the 3 core residential green building certification programs that are typically available across the country in the LIHTC QAP programs. They also are typically available within HUD funded programs, which there are multiple of, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. There's also all sorts of state, county, and city entities that reference these programs as well. They're the main 3 ones. There's other ones, but they're the main core ones that are nationally used. And so we're going to look at how they compare and contrast and what are some of the biggest difference you need to know, and then help you go from there. So I'm the education manager. I'm Brett Little, and I'm going to help, with further education on these topics today, and then as we go forward. And then Eliza, our program manager, if you want to introduce yourself, helps with our certification.
Hi, everyone. Eliza Searles. I am the program manager with Green Home Institute. I'm so glad all of you could join us this morning. I work with project teams who are seeking green certifications and also just some consultation on different green upgrades they're making when they're doing some renovations and things like that. So I look forward to meeting you and working with you. My email address is on our website, greenhomeinstitute.org. And so is our phone number. So please get a hold of us, and we look forward to connecting you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. And if a question comes up too, she'll be sure to be monitoring the chat. And if it's specific to something she can help with now. There is a large list of resources here that we're going to be referencing throughout the session. Probably not necessarily a good time to try to look at it as we're going live, but this is a great opportunity for you to go back and look at that recording and reference some of these resources in more detail as we're going. So this is the resource handout. We'll also send it out in a more formal Word document as well, and you can have those on hand with you, to look into further information that I'll be talking about. So the green building certification programs offer third-party verified certifications that go above code and look at more than energy, but also all 5 pillars of green, which include health, materials, water, and place. They require third-party on-site inspectors, testing and verification, and submission of documentation to an accredited body to verify that projects meet the sustainability standards. The 3 main green certifications required or rewarded in most state QAPs are the NGBS Green, LEED for Homes, and Enterprise Green Communities. Each of these programs have different category names, but for the sake of consistency for this session, we'll refer to them mostly as energy, health, materials, water, and place. So let's briefly take a look at each one of these. First up is the Home Innovations NGBS Green Certified. This is delivered by the Home Innovations Lab, a subsidiary of the National Associations of Home Builders. It offers a certified silver, gold, and emerald approach. And to use this program for either 4% or 9%, at least in Michigan, you must have a certified silver level or higher. It requires points and prerequisites in all 5 pillars of green, again, energy, health, water, materials, and place. And to score higher levels, such as the silver, you must accumulate more points in all 5 pillars as you go along that continuum. The program is heavily choice-based program, meaning you will spend significant amounts of time making decisions on what green credits you wish to pursue. And it's much lighter on prerequisites and requirements than you will see on the other 2 programs. There is a good number of green verifiers around the country that provide on-site verification, and many of them are also energy raters, which are needed to complete the energy modeling. This program has medium costs, including a registration fee, green verifier fees, energy rater fees, and likely consultation costs. The program has medium recognition among the public and industry as a sustainability standard. What really stands out about the NGBS program is that it works great for renovations of older buildings with poor energy and water performance when there's not a large budget to make significant energy and water upgrades. The reason that is because the worst shape that the building is in it is easier to get the 25% reduction in energy, and I believe 20 or 25% reduction in water from where the building started to where you go. So worst performers perform the best. Great tool for older existing buildings. Now let's look at Enterprise Green Communities briefly. This program is designed by the Enterprise Community Partners, which was made specifically just for affordable housing. So you can't use it outside of that. Unlike LEED or NGBS, it just offers a baseline requirement of prerequisites to be met based on whether a project is a moderate or major renovation or substantial renovation or new construction. And it also looks at some differences between rural and urban. From there, you accumulate additional points, just like the other programs, in each of the 5 pillars of green: energy, water, materials, place, health, and certified. There is no silver, gold, or platinum levels. It's just certified or not plus points. In counter to NGBS, which we just talked about, on the opposite side of the spectrum, this is a very heavy prerequisite mandatory driven requirement program with significantly fewer choices. And so some ways you can look at it at fewer decisions that you have to make thinking through how to meet it. The program is delivered by technical assistance providers like Green Home Institute and many others around the country who work with third-party on-site energy raters or energy modelers. The costs of this program include the cheapest of the 3 programs for registration and certification fees, but to be very successful with it, you probably want to have a consultant, and of course there's the rater fees, which are in line with the other programs. The program works great for the vast majority of projects that get involved with it through moderate, substantial renovations. But it's really important to ensure that the building can achieve the targeted energy requirements, especially on renovations, early in the design stage during the plan, and make sure the goals are in budget, are all in line with the energy outcomes. The program has very low recognition among the public and industry as a sustainability standard. And what stands out about this program is that it aligns the most with the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits compared to the others, which we'll discuss a little bit here. What also stands out with this program is that you really need to get started now, or you need to start yesterday, right? You're too late, because this program requires a survey of the tenants in the existing building or the residents or the immediate community, and that feedback needs to get implemented into the design and construction and the operations of the new project or renovation project. Part of the survey also includes looking at the county health issues that are going on and how you're going to address the major health issues in the county, and climate risks and climate resiliency must be addressed. So this survey must be completed early and be able to influence the project. We provide a tenant survey. If you don't have one, you can use it or take it or develop your own. We have a link to it, and it's in the handouts as well. Last but not least is the LEED for Homes standard. This standard is delivered by the United States Green Building Council, USGBC, in joint partnership with Green Business Certificate Institute, GBCI. This is the most well-known and recognized standard to the public and industry, in contrast to the 2 other programs. This program, much like NGBS and Enterprise, has baseline requirements in all 5 pillars of green, and has a middle of the road between the 2 programs with a little more requirements than NGBS, but a little more choices that you get to make than Enterprise Green, focused in all 5 pillars of green. The program requires scoring points in all 5 pillars of green to achieve a certified silver, gold, or platinum level, and with silver being required level to obtain at least 50 points in the Michigan LIHTC QAP and many other QAPs around the country. The program has LEED Green raters, who are typically also energy raters, and they're all over the planet at this point, and they help provide on-site verification of projects, and they work with LEED providers like us to ensure quality assurance of the project and the standards are met. The cost of the program is a little bit higher than the others, given registration, certification provider, and green rater fees. The program works the best on new construction and major gut renovations. However, newer versions under V4.1 and the coming V5 may make it more applicable to renovations, and especially if the LEED operations and maintenance O&M program is allowed in your QAP. That could make the program open up to a lot more existing buildings that aren't undergoing substantial changes. Now, LEED BD and CV4 requirements in innovation preliminary rating and in the integrative project team, integrative project process are available in LEED, and they are good design strategies to use early in the design process, no matter which of these green programs you pick. These processes will help you determine which program to select and make the most informed decisions. The LEED preliminary rating includes ensuring that the LEED Green Rater has reviewed the plans and specification and creates a LEED checklist or workbook with a targeted goal or outcome, ideally with some buffer points. So, for example, real cautious LIHTC teams probably want 55 points because 50 is required for silver, which is required for LIHTC. And very conservative teams may want to target gold and additionally have a 20% energy buffer in their energy rating, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Now, these goals can be set during the LEED Integrative Design Team meeting, which will ideally include the owner, developer, architect, mechanical, and green rater, who will review the plans and specs carefully together throughout the design stage and set the goals to achieve the LEED or desired green program, ideally during or before the LIHTC application period, such as in the schematic design and or conventional design stages. Now, in Michigan and in many other states, those going for net zero can gain additional points in the Green QAP by achieving a net zero badge or certification. The LEED Zero and NGBS Plus Net Zero Energy badges share many similarities, while Enterprise Green Communities Plus program is very different in how you're going to approach net zero. So first, let's take a look at the Enterprise Green Plus program. The program is much more relevant to new construction and is a significant effort to undertake for renovation. Very difficult to do. The good news is that the effort aligns well with the Inflation Reduction Act 45L incentives, which gain upwards of $5,000 per unit in tax credits. Make sure to consult your tax advisor on that. Now, the Enterprise Green Plus program is basically obtaining the Enterprise Green Community certification, which it requires achieving the DOE Zero Energy Ready certification. Now, this is a 3-for-1 because, number one, it aligns well with the $5,000 per unit 45L tax credit and can go hand in hand with the $5 per square foot Inflation Reduction Act 179D tax credit. It achieves almost 1/3 of the points to certify under Enterprise Green for things you already have to do already by going Zero Energy Ready. And it aligns with the health and ventilation requirements under Enterprise Green Communities. The DOE Zero Energy Ready standard requires you build a more energy efficient building than the code by beating ASHRAE 90.1 2019 by at least 20% in energy conservation. Then you need to prepare the building for future solar. You do not need solar on it for now during this certification process. Then you need to follow the Indoor Air Plus standard, which ensures good air quality in the building. And again, it's in line with the enterprise standards that are available. To put energy savings in context, let's take a look at this chart from the comparison of energy codes. And you can look at any state you want, but for the purposes of this session, we're just going to hone in on my favorite state, which is Michigan. Now, note that you can see it says that ASHRAE 90.1 2019 code is nearly 5%, right, more efficient than the current code here in Michigan. And so essentially note that means that you need to be about 25% more efficient than the current code to achieve this DOE Zero Energy Ready standard, to achieve those boosted points in LIHTC. However, Michigan is most likely any minute now to adopt the IECC 2021 standard. So when that happens, we'll likely have to be back up to around 20% or more efficient, again, above that code within what you're planning to do with your project. So how do we get there? And that is where the LEED Innovation Preliminary Rating and IP Integrated Project Team requirements and credits of LEED come in. Whether you're doing LEED or not, remember that the process that LEED outlines to do this sets forth in the credit and requirements. They help you determine if you meet this requirement by going through those motions. During this period, you'll have your design and construction and mechanical and rating team in early meetings reviewing the plans, specifications, contracts, and work scopes. They will send these on to the energy rater, who will determine if they're on track in the rating to meeting the low energy rating standards and the Zero Energy Ready certification standard. You will hopefully be using an iterative design process, as in from concept design through 100% drawings, construction documentation, and go back and forth updating the plans and specs, and then updating the energy model, and then updating the plans and specs, repeat, 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 until you hit the target with the team that comes in with hopefully some buffer points in line again with your budget and considering hopefully the tax credits that you might benefit. The DOE Zero Energy Ready program also aligns with most of the energy and atmosphere credit points needed in LEED, as well as completes all of the indoor environmental quality points or requirements of LEED and some of the indoor environmental quality points under health. Also, it helps with some of the water opportunities in LEED, meaning that when you go Zero Energy Ready certified, if you're doing it with LEED, you're basically LEED certified at that point. Now, if this is a renovation project, you might find it also beneficial to do a test in and an energy audit and build out a model of the existing. It might include blower door and duct blaster testings just to make sure you know what's going on. Sometimes this is called or is referred to as an ASHRAE Level 2 audit. And there are many utilities, especially here in Michigan, that'll actually pay you to do or pay for your ASHRAE audits, which can get kind of pricey. And this is already required for some of the green building programs. On top of that, the utilities then help you access many of the other utility rebates that go hand in hand with those audits and energy upgrades you need to do. We have a link with more information on our website to access some of those rebates. Now, that was enterprise, and we talked a little bit about LEED, but let's say you wanted to take the actual LEED Zero approach or the National Green Building Standard approach for Zero. These approaches are more similar, but there are some differences, and these approaches are more based on the purchase of renewable energy credits or carbon offsets. You first still need to meet the baseline green requirements of each program and certify, at least in Michigan, as with many other states, to the silver baseline level, achieving all 5 pillars of green sustainability standards. But then from there, we highly do encourage you to obtain the DOE Zero Energy Ready standard, or at least go through the energy modeling of the LEED preliminary rating and integrative project team process to ensure you're getting a low energy use building, because then that reduces the number of carbon offsets or renewable energy credits you are going to be mandated to buy, to again asking yourself, why am I doing this? Because you agreed to achieve higher points in your application to be more competitive for your LIHTC or whatever funding source you're doing. So here we have built a free calculator that you can access, and there's an example of it there of a real project that we are actually working on, but you can go in and change it however, and update it and download it for your specific project. Now, we'll go over this more fully in a whole nother session from this, so stay tuned for that. However, here's a couple things you need to know. Number one, if you're using the HERS index or the energy rating index, you want to use the worst case unit that in this model and extrapolate out from there. You want to be very conservative just to be safe. Also note that the HERS ERI does not account for common spaces. So typically the best practice is you take your total residential building use and then chalk on 20%. You and your teams might have different best practices. Use whatever that is. And the tool is built out 20% here. So that again gets you the total building usage, which you are required to offset with your RECs or carbon offsets. Now, if you're just using ASHRAE 90.1, you can go ahead and delete the MMBTU or kilowatt hours there at the top and put in the total building load from your whole building energy model and skip the common space increases as well, because that's all in the whole building energy model. Finally, note that the cost per renewable energy credit fluctuates monthly. we can get you in touch with our rec dealer to help you determine the costs, or you can insert your own right into the tool. Now look at the bottom 3 lines there in that spreadsheet. You can note that these, for how much a project's going to cost you, potentially, whether you're doing LEED or NGBS net zero. The last 2 items on the chart distinguish the differences between the 2 rating programs. NGBS requires you do 2 years of renewable energy credit purchases, and it can be bought off the final energy rating and inspection testing completed at the end of the project. So basically, you can deliver the certification at project closeout and not have to wait. Wait for what, right? So this is the difference with LEED. LEED Zero, you must offset your real energy and utility usage based on starting 50% occupancy and wait a full year of operational usage. You cannot use energy ratings to base your REC purchases for LEED Zero. However, you can pre-buy your RECs 2 years in advance if you get that accepted in writing on each project. And you can base that on the energy model and it can still count. So what I mean by that is you don't have to make the REC purchase right at the end. You can buy it at the closeout of the project when you have your final energy testing completed, or even earlier than that if you find a good price, and then just either buy more RECs later on if the building ends up using more in the occupancy stage. Now look here, imagine if during the LEED innovation preliminary rating that you're doing, whether it's LEED or not, again, it's a good process to use, and you have your LEED integrative design team meeting to think through how to hit these strategies. Before you've reached 100% drawings, construction, documentation stage, what if you value engineered the building to have better walls, to have better air sealing plans, switch to air source or ground source heat pump technology, and or added solar power? And I know a lot of you are going to leave now, right? Right, solar is not required, but hear me out. All right, added solar power. You can now cut your energy use in half, right? This is just a scenario we did here, a made up scenario here but you go through that with your team. Imagine you could cut your energy usage in half. Now you only need to buy half as many credits, spend half as much of money on a piece of paper that goes up on the wall and really doesn't do anything. Plus you have reduced utility bills, you have more comfortable tenants, you have a better built, more valuable building. So that's up to you. That's a thing we offer you, a suggestion we want to give you. And so take a look at that process, and that's something we help teams with our energy raters. All right, now to get the maximum points in Michigan and many other QAPs, you need to achieve Passive House US certification. Passive House is basically the top of the pyramid, right? So all the things we talked about, and we're going to be talking about some of the other non-energy items here in a second, you're building up a foundation, right? You're getting really good at a green building program that's helping you with your energy. You're trying to achieve a zero energy rating. You're getting really close. Now, Passive House, you just got a little more work to do, right? So Passive House also requires achieving DOE Zero Energy Ready certification. And because DOE Zero Energy Ready certification helps you get 1/3 of your points in enterprise and lines up with that 45L $5,000 per unit tax credit, we have to highly advise that if you're going Passive House, that Enterprise Green is the program to use in tandem with it as your best choice. Now, using Enterprise Plus is going to be your best pathway because, again, it's meeting many of those other standards for FIAS. And the Passive House certification will require you to hire a certified Passive House consultant. So that's going to be a new person you have to introduce to your team. And similar to the LEED Innovation Preliminary Rating, this will require you submit a completely thought out plan review of your project that helps ensure your project is hitting the advanced energy targets of the Passive House standard. Now take a look here at this online calculator to get through a rough estimate of exactly what it is you need to do. Now here on the calculator, we're going to assume a multifamily building with, at least in the state of Michigan, a traditional 52 unit average. That's kind of our sweet spot here. And an average, let's say, of 2 bedrooms located in Kent County. You can see that there are 4 targets you need to hit at the top, which include heating and cooling and looking at both total heating and cooling demand as well as peak heating and cooling demand between the different seasons. It also includes energy use per person per year targets, which is different than the other programs. What is not listed here, though, are some of the other mandatory targets that your certified passive house consultant are going to help you get through. And we have tons of other educational resources and webinars on these, including mandatory thermal bridge reductions, air leak, major air leak reductions, duct leakage reductions, and ventilation efficiency targets as well. Now, using the DOE Zero Energy Ready standard, using that lead integrative design approach, and having your project team meeting, right, having that diverse set of skills meeting and talking through these early in the design stage, you're already very close to these targets. You just need to go a little bit further to hit your goals. And working with your certified passive house consultant who's going to ensure you're achieving it. This is netting you the most points in your QAP LIHTC application. This is you and your clients, investing into their own building, and it won't be required to buy as many, or you won't be required to buy any racks if you use the enterprise process as the foundation to passive house here, meaning, advanced targets for all 5 pillars of green. If you use passive house and LEED or NGBS, you may still be required to get some of the renewable energy credits to achieve the goals. All right, so now that you've completed your preliminary rating and you've determined your outcomes and goals, we need to discuss the differences in the other 4 pillars of green for the building programs. It's important to know that the more issues you can root out early in design, the more successful your project can be. For LEED, the preliminary rating is required to be completed by your LEED Green Rater, and before construction and ideally reviewed by the LEED provider, but it's not required to go to USGBC, short of ideally providing an energy model on 4+ story buildings and ventilation calculations early in the design stage before construction starts. For the National Green Building Standard, renovation projects should submit preliminary ratings ahead of time. Though as long as you're not opening up any walls, I just learned, you don't have to do that now. You don't have to submit those. Enterprise green communities is the most strict here. They require a full plan and specification submission for approval for at least, I believe, 60 days, though, Eliza, you can correct me. I get the 60 and 90 days mixed up between final and early. But, ideally 60 days before you begin construction, they need to approve your plans. And this goes hand in hand with the Enterprise Plus program, because it's ideal to get a preliminary rating approval from the DOE Zero Energy Ready through the Zero Energy Ready provider by your energy rater. And also a pre-construction plan process must be approved by a passive house before construction if you're going down that pathway. All right, so let's start getting into the other 4 pillars of green outside of energy. So wetlands, right? You're looking at these early in the design stage when you're assessing your site, especially for new construction. Wetlands are vital for services, the environment, and you should avoid building into them. Identify the existings of these during the preliminary rating. Look up information from the local municipality and the state environmental department. Sometimes local state law is not as strict as the green programs. For Enterprise Green, you cannot build within 100 feet of wetlands. That's mandatory for new construction. This is a bonus credit for LEED and the National Green Building Standard, not required. Now, being able to get to a diverse number of locations quickly and with different transportation options is very important for equity, affordability, and carbon reductions within your projects. Most of this is determined early in the design stage during the preliminary rating. Assessing, having someone on your design team be assigned through the integrative process to be responsible to get this information helps you understand what opportunities there are. Sometimes advocacy is needed here by the team to go to the local municipality and ensure there are enough services for the tenants. Enterprise is the most sustainable program here because it requires on new construction, urban projects have public transportation, easy connection to community diverse resources, avoiding sites that damage protected wildlife, and it requires density. For rural projects, it requires less requirements when you're identified rural, but it does require some dial-a-ride services. There is a LEED misnomer here that the LEED requires bike racks and electric car parking. This simply is not true. LEED and NGBS have no mandates here, but reward points for all these features. Now, as your construction begins, this is where the LEED integrative design project team process really picks back up again. This is also part of the Enterprise Green Program. It's called the Integrative Design Construction Management Process. This is a process by which your construction team, mechanical, design, plumbing, insulators, radar team are all in constant communication throughout the project to ensure sustainability goals are being met. For LEED, this is actually an extra credit, whereas for Enterprise, it is mandatory. In either program, as well as NGBS, the rater or verifier will be on site during mid-construction verifying the green features to ensure compliance with the energy and chosen green program requirements. LEED and NGBS are the most strict on the mid-construction and final inspections because they require, in addition to the energy rater, a certified green or green verifier, who may also be the energy rater. It's important to know that the construction team communication in tandem with the rater is, again, like I said, optional or not even existent in NGBS. But let me be honest and clear with you. If you want to be successful with your project and achieve your LIHTC tax credit, you do not want to avoid this. I think Enterprise has it right here requiring it. It ensures that your project is built correctly and that issues are identified immediately when they come up rather than when it's too late. And we'll discuss some more examples of that as we're going. Now, preventing pollution and runoff as well as soil degradation is very important during construction. The integrative project team process related to LEED or EGC will ensure good documentation of this during the construction process. To some extent, LEED is the most sustainable here because it requires the on-site green rater review these features during the construction process to ensure they stay intact throughout the build. However, one key difference here is that Enterprise Green must fully approve your stormwater mitigation plan during the preliminary stage before construction. LEED does not require that, though it is suggested. NGBS gives various points for plans and implementations, but there are no requirements for it here. Shower and tub surrounds need to be done right to prevent mold and mildew building up over time due to frequent humidity being built up in bathrooms, which can lead to rot and tenant health issues. It's cheaper just to put nothing behind the shower and tub surround, which allows moisture to move through the wall. However, most fire codes now require you to do something. So you need to have, in that case, a moisture and fire-resistant substrate. So again, LEED is the most sustainable choice here because it only allows substrates that are certified to ASTM D3272. Enterprise Green gives a few more options using moisture-resistant backing materials such as cement board, fiber cement board, or that equivalent ASTM 6329 or ASTM D3273 like LEED behind the shower and tub enclosure. Projects using a one-piece fiberglass are exempt from this requirement, and they are on LEED, again, as long as what's behind there is nothing or insulation. NGBS does not require this, but gives points for doing it within their system. Now, the integrative project team during the build and construction, if you have your team put together right and they're communicating well, will also be documenting these details in photos and in notes. And so you can ensure that the proper moisture barriers are going up, and hopefully those are being submitted within the construction reports. Construction waste diversion from landfills. Enterprise Green is the most sustainable here because they require some waste diversion of material streams. In fact, there is a misnomer again about LEED because a lot of people tell me, oh, yes, LEED, I'm recycling my project. We're meeting LEED standards. That is incorrect. First of all, LEED doesn't require it. It just rewards for it. There's no and barely is recycling construction of it's a couple points in LEED. So LEED and NGBS reward points for various ways of reducing waste, either through a percentage of all waste streams or certain types of materials at 50% ratios like cardboard, metal, drywall, you name it. Having low or no emission paints, primers, and sealants helps protect workers and their health and the occupants and ultimate tenants' health as well. Enterprise Green is the most sustainable here because they require every paint, primer, sealant, and adhesive that is being used to be low emissions per the standards regulatory body that regulates each one of those different types of applications. LEED and National Green Building Standard reward various points when these are being used, and they also have to be verified in the field to actually be present and that those are the actual products being applied. Water leaks not only waste water and drive up utility costs, but cause building failures and health issues to tenants over time. LEED is the most sustainable here because they require all water leaks to be ensured that there are none, and that water pressure testing be done and be completed at the completion of the project. Enterprise simply just rewards additional points for testing for water leaks. The National Green Building Standard has no leak testing requirements, points, or anything, but it does have some innovative credits for real-time leak monitoring devices being installed, which we think is ultimately the future we need to head in to protect our buildings and our tenants. Keeping on that water, as drought worsens, it ends up harming water processing plants. Sometimes they have to shut these plants down in July in the summer, and these drive up water rates significantly. Costs are going up every day. So what can we do to help with green building? Well, Enterprise is the most sustainable here when it comes to this. The program requires that when plantings are being done and when irrigation is being added or fixed, they must be water efficient. These things cannot be ignored. Even grasses, turf must be drought tolerant, native or adaptive. There are program points for hitting additional higher water saving targets. However, Enterprise only looks at, in that case, at indoor water savings through a calculator, whereas LEED and National Green Building Standard have total water performance savings calculators, both indoor and outdoor, for saving water and getting more additional points. Now, looking at stormwater on-site retention, this is very important to preserve water quality and prevent backup at water processing sites, as well as restore local groundwater. And some cities might give you tax credits or benefits, or they're doing, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, they're doing a water trading program where you can have a really good stormwater mitigation plan and get water credits and sell those on the market, similar to what you might think of as carbon credits locally. Enterprise Green is the most sustainable here, requiring at least the 60th percentile on all projects impacting the landscape and roadways. LEED and NGBS have no requirements, but reward points at higher levels, such as the 90th percentile. Now, ventilation is critical to keeping occupants healthy and comfortable. LEED is the most sustainable here when it comes to ventilation. And the reason is because it requires all measures on new construction and renovations. Enterprise is the same as LEED on new construction, but awards points on renovations for better ventilation. NGBS is all points and no requirements. And so the way we look at this is meeting ASHRAE 62.2 2010, which is a ventilation standard. This includes local kitchen exhaust at 100 CFM or higher, tested by the rater and vented outdoors. Bathroom exhaust at 50 CFM or higher, tested by the rater and vented outdoors. And total unit ventilation rates, either continuous or intermittently, of at least 20 to 50 CFM, again, tested by the third-party rater. This can be accomplished through the bath fan or inline supply fan through the furnace or heat pump, or ideally by an energy recovery ventilator, which scores more points than LEED or NGBS. Now, the systems must also give the occupant control to turn them on, off, or adjust the speed. Note, this is one area where we see major problems and failures, both in deficiencies in the range hoods and bath fans on many of our LIHTC projects. Using the lead integrative project process and preliminary rating process, whether you're using lead or not, you can design out these failures and reduce the risk by building in higher ventilation rates during the preliminary rating, ensuring that the mechanical contractors are testing these systems, and ensuring that proper wiring controls of systems are implemented by the electrician on the first couple of units. This is important for a trained project team. Now, before we move on, a real quick shout out to Panasonic Ventilation. They are offering all the solutions to achieve green building ventilation requirements in a cost-effective manner. Energy Star certified inline fans or exhaust fans, energy recovery ventilators ranging from 20 to 200 CFM, decentral or central systems that work in cold climates help with the best balanced solutions. You can check them out over at greenhomeinstitute.org/Panasonic ventilation. All right, continuing with some more of the requirements, leaky ductwork reduces energy ratings, increases utility bills, and can often lead to discomfort and reduce occupant health. Now, LEED is the most sustainable here because they require low duct leakage through a test with exemptions to multifamily mid-rise units for more story buildings when all the ductwork is in conditioned space. Enterprise requires this too, but only on new construction, and National Green Building Standards simply just rewards points for this. All programs give more energy points in the energy ratings, typically when duct leakage is overall reduced. And again, here is another area where we see significant failures on LIHTC projects. Now, using that lead integrative design process, whether it's lead or not, and including the mechanical contractor oversight for duct sealing can really help reduce that risk. Also, the integrative project team could design out the issue entirely by selecting mini splits, and they could be ducted or ductless mini splits with shorter duct runs. Speaking of that, by you can improve in your energy scores, decarbonize, and achieve the net zero programs with ducted or ductless mini splits. And we're grateful for Mitsubishi. They offer the top of the line rated systems for multifamily and townhomes. All climate heat pumps keep working down to -13. There are even traditional ducted systems and whole building variable refrigerant systems that heat, cool simultaneously and can ventilate. And you can check them out over at Mitsubishi Comfort to learn more about some of those available systems to help on your projects. So air leakage reduction is important both for reducing energy waste and for preventing entry of polluted air from outside the units. That is called compartmentalization. This is a blower door test that is done, and I forgot to delete the sound there, to help evaluate the air leakage, hopefully on a renovation at the beginning of the project, and then at the end of the project, it's required for that testing. Now, to some extent, Enterprise and LEED are equal, noting that having a moderate tightness in the building for new construction and having a little more lax requirements on renovation. Enterprise goes even a little bit further and allows you again to do that blower door test early in the design stage, early in the project stage on existing buildings, and you can do a reduction by 20% to meet the standard. NGBS has no requirements besides the prescriptive air tightness requirements, just like LEED and NGBS for new construction, and extra points for reducing. In all cases, the energy ratings improve when air tightness is reduced, helping you with overall energy score in the program. Proper integrative design team protocols with extra air sealing management help reduce failures, which we still sometimes see on projects. This was required on LEED mid-rise 4+ stories to submit an air sealing plan to verify that that plan is in line with the reductions. Now, when it comes to air filtration, this is important in the homes to protect the HVAC systems and the health of the tenants. As outdoor air quality worsens from pollution and wildfires, and indoor air pollution is reduced from cooking, other uses of things that off gas, as well as now viral transmissions, the flu, COVID, you name it, the filters catch all of this stuff. LEED is the most sustainable here, requiring at least MERV 8 filters and rewarding for MERV 10. Enterprise requires MERV 6 via Energy Star on new construction, and NGBS rewards points up through MERV 14, but has no requirements. Now, besides wasting energy, water heaters that are not sealed well may present health risks to the occupants when they're directly placed within or next to the units. LEED is the most sustainable here because requiring all water heaters to be at least sealed combustion if using a form of methane or propane gas to heat the water can cause issues. Also, LEED requires that the drain pan be added to prevent leak damage. Enterprise Green is the second most sustainable here, which requires sealed combustion, but at times has allowed some exemptions on renovations. NGBS here rewards for sealed combustion and does not even give points for heat pump water heaters, which still surprises me. In all cases, though, more efficient water heaters improve the energy ratings on all green program projects, and especially when using heat pump water heaters, you can drive those energy ratings down and protect clients and tenants from the health effects of combustion. Now, again, to meet those decarbonization goals and green building goals, the quickest way to do that is using the Rheem Proterra heat pump water heaters. You know, Rheem offers heat pump water heaters for your projects, including the 120 volt plug and play that quickly replaces gas systems that are there and may avoid the costly electrical upgrades. They also have hybrid water heaters that have backup resistance to ensure hot water is flowing all the time. Many utilities are now rebating these, and some are using them for pilot programs for their time of use programs, since they can have settings on them on when to run. Inflation Reduction Act fundings in some states also are rebating these systems. So you can learn more at rheem.com, heat pump water heaters anytime. Energy Star appliances reduce energy usage and utility bills. On new construction, Enterprise requires all appliances be Energy Star certified, besides the dryer. And even if the washers are being leased, they still must be certified. And LEED requires at least one appliance be certified. Typically, this is the refrigerator in most cases. On renovations, Enterprise only requires that those are being replaced be certified, besides the dryer. And National Green Building Standard rewards points for Energy Star appliances, but does not require them. The more Energy Star certified appliances you have in your projects, the better energy rating points you're going to receive in all of the rating programs. Now, building operation manuals and tenant manuals help builders and managers and tenants continue to maintain building managers and tenants continue to maintain healthy and sustainable building. And sustainable building that is energy efficient after the building is completed. Enterprise is the most sustainable here, requiring full building operation and maintenance plans, tenant manual, and emergency manual as well. These manuals in draft form must be vetted in the preliminary stage with a pre-construction approval plan, and final documents must be submitted and confirmed in the final submission stage. Sometimes people are surprised, but you really do need to get your building managers involved early in design to work on this. Enterprise also provides really fantastic resources and tools to complete this, and we actually advise all of our teams on LEED and NGBS to use their tools because they're very well put together and organized. EGC also requires training take place and a document handoff from the construction team to the operation team on how to operate the building. LEED is the next most sustainable here, requiring a less intense operation manual to be submitted at the final to the Green Rater, and to also document the training in a similar way that Enterprise does. Lead operation and maintenance under the V4 program, which may be allowed in some LIHTC QAPs for existing buildings, is predicated mostly on massive amounts of operational policies being developed, even more significant than this, but in line with this. Both LEED and Enterprise also require these manuals to include ongoing pest management contracts and strategies for non-toxic pest control. It's also worth noting that NGBS does have a minor number of items that need to be completed for a manual, but compared to LEED and NGBS, it doesn't really have any other major requirements, and it rewards points a la carte for additional items that you might otherwise add to your manual and for the tenants and operations. Now, having a plan in place to track utility data such as electric, water, and gas is important, if you're still using gas, that is. It's a good way to help understand how your building is performing over time. It may even be required to maintain incentives like HUD and other programs through certain ongoing building efficiency requirements. Many programs are moving towards actual operational reduction in utility usage and carbon emissions. Programs like LEED Zero, LEED Operation and Maintenance, which in some instances can be used on LIHTC. Enterprise currently is the most sustainable here in that they both require at the start of the project, you actually go out and compare your entire portfolio of energy use and water use. And you must set up an online account through something such as the Energy Star Portfolio Manager and upload data to share with Enterprise. To submit for certification on new construction, you only need your meters set up in the portal. You don't actually need any of that data to certify. For LEED and NGBS, these are optional points. You are rewarded by tracking and reporting utility data. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people still don't know that Energy Star doesn't just certify appliances, but they certify entire homes and buildings. Enterprise is the most stringent when it comes to this here on new construction because they require full Energy Star certification. The benefit here, too, is under the Inflation Reduction Act, 45L, you could get up to $2,500 per unit by doing what you're already required to do. LEED requires you follow all of the requirements of Energy Star minus two important factors. Number one, you don't need the certified HVAC contractor. And number two, you don't actually have to certify to Energy Star. You are still allowed to use the single family program on LEED as well, even on multifamily. LEED and Enterprise give many exceptions to Energy Star when doing renovations that allow you to bypass or reduce the requirements. NGBS has a bronze alternative certification pathway that allows for the Energy Star. Short of that, it does not require or reward for it. Make sure you stay up to date on the Energy Star documents, as I always am surprised to learn that a new one has come out, as I recently was. And we have those for you as well. All right, so those are some of the basic requirements. Now, really the next step you need to take here is starting to gain awareness of these programs. That's what you're doing. And then from there, you'll want to seek additional training and even accreditation and certification for yourself and for your team members. If you're doing a LEED project or a Enterprise Green Community project, the Energy Star New Partner Agreement training will be required for someone on your team to go through. Typically, that is the builder who has to go through that training. And that's all free. If you're planning on pursuing the DOE Zero Energy Ready for Enterprise Plus program, the next step after Energy Star is having the same person on your team submit as a Zero Energy Ready partner. First, you'll want to attend the training, then submit your application to becoming a partner. Again, all free on the DOE's website. Some states actually require or reward additional points in their LIHTC application when someone on the design or build team goes through a green training or credential. Our Certified Green Home Professional training is one way to give you more detail and foundational knowledge of residential green building and goes into more depth on each of the topics we covered today, as well as other practices in residential sustainability. We go far into the 5 pillars of residential green building, how they compare and contrast, and how they're used on each of these programs. This is a free credentialing program that's available to all Green Home Institute members. Having a LEED accredited professional on your team is very valuable, whether you're doing LEED or not. If you are doing LEED, this person understands the requirements of the program to make it easier and brings in additional points to the LEED project. GHI offers all the training and practice exam materials to help you achieve this, and it's free under our membership. The individual must have achieved the credential prior to registering the project, which usually ends at the design phase. This is not required for LEED, and in all honesty, I will tell you most projects do not have a LEED AP Homes on their project team. Lastly, industry professionals now can earn their NGBS Green Pro. This is a professional designation that validates expertise in green design and construction and building certification. By going through this, you know that that professional understands how the NGBS program works, and they get listed online as a designated professional. It's important to know that this is not required at all. There's no additional points or any additional value to doing it other than just having the knowledge and getting on the list. Finally, if you're planning for aiming for all the LIHTC green points and getting a certified passive house consultant trained and builder trained, this is a great idea for your team. The consultant actually is mandatory. You can train one on your team or go out and hire one. And they help design the project to hit the energy targets and submission for the preliminary rating. The builder is totally optional for a passive house project, but helps ensure that the project achieves the stringent energy targets and prescriptive targets that need to be done by having someone who's thoroughly trained and knows what the heck they're doing throughout the construction process on site. Each of these residential green programs are like a different tool in your tool belt. Sometimes you'll use a different one depending on the goals and challenges of each project. Whether you're doing LIHTC or even a green certification at all, these programs give you the tools to build or renovate a better building, and we encourage everyone to use them. Each program workbook has a workbook or manual, and that can be found on the respective sites that they are all available for free to access. However, there are some key differences. NGBS requirements and credits are all available, but they're very limited in their very detail, very brief. And so you'll probably need assistance from a professional. LEED's resources are only free up to a point, but to get further details, you must pay the $99 a year cost to get access for that. Typically, your hired provider and GreenRater have these. LEED's also great because all the addendums are listed on any of the changes to the credits over the years. Enterprise Green, in our view, does the best job of providing explanations, further details, and significant templates and resources that can be used on their programs. Finally, we have more details that quickly compare all of these programs that you can look at on a handout that we have for you, and we keep it up to date in real time so you can always access it and take a look at it as we learn more and as program changes. It just gives you a quick side-by-side comparison you can use when you're trying to make decisions. So in summary, residential green programs share many commonalities than they do differences. They all provide free tools, information, and guidance to transform the places we live, to achieve better results that reduce energy and carbon, improve health, extend building life, and benefit our communities for years to come. Now, whether through a mandate or tax incentive or because you just want to build better, we can assist you in deciding which of these programs are best for you, your clients, and your particular project. These programs are always changing, always updating, so we'll continue to put out new training and understanding as they do. One program may seem more beneficial today and then not so much tomorrow when a new version comes out. If you're interested in getting a project started or determining which is right for you, please review our additional resources. Please get connected with one of our local raters in your area. And also, please contact our program manager, Eliza Searles, to help you get started on your project. So that's all I have today for this particular session. I know we're at our time, so if you have to go, feel free to get going. So you can get your continuing ed if you've been here this whole time. Otherwise, we're going to stick around and take any other questions and have more conversation if you want to stay with us. As a reminder, this session is being recorded. It's hosted up on our YouTube channel. so you can check that out anytime, rewatch it, catch anything you missed. If you're watching this on demand in the future, take that quiz with an 80% passing rate to receive your certificate. And for those of you live here today, check your spam over the next couple days for certs at gutenbergcerts.com to receive your certificates. So that's it. Thank you. Eliza, did you see any great questions that come up that we should be addressing?
No, I did not.
Thanks, Eliza.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out all of our courses available online that you can watch anytime and anywhere to pick up your CEUs. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to get weekly updates and stay up to date on green building science courses, webinars, and home tours. Thanks again.